Well, welcome everybody. I guess we're going to finish up the last half of the day here with Blue Ribbon. How do you want to run on the projects here, Trina?
So I put the agenda up. I figured we would go through Blue Ribbon business first and then run through the projects, or we can do it the other way and get folks on the road. I guess it doesn't matter to me. Do you want to? The projects are down here, and they're, I figured we would just present in this order. It'd be Strawberry, eDNA, aquatics monitoring equipment. Nick is upstairs, so we might have to move him to the end. And then the last three, I was just going to talk about. I've got a couple of presentations, and then that last one is just your basic fisheries administration. So if we want to just roll with Alan first, we can do that and save the business for the end.
Okay, I think that would work.
Okay, let's do that. Go ahead, Alan.
In December this last year that we had walleye caught up there at Strawberry. The kid that caught it, as you can see, has a GoPro on his head. He videoed the whole thing. So at that point, we're kind of like, well, we can't really say that this isn't a valid report. So we've got to roll with it. We've got to do our due diligence. We've got to try to figure out what that means for Strawberry Reservoir. Obviously, Strawberry Reservoir has been managed for years and years and years as a kind of one of Utah's premier trout fisheries. And walleye have a high potential to disrupt that fishery. In order to verify that, I have contacted other managers within the state, but mostly even out of state in other areas, and tried to figure out exactly what walleye mean. Are they going to take off in Strawberry Reservoir? It's iced over for a long period of time, all of that kind of stuff. We do feel like walleye do have the potential of doing well in Strawberry. They definitely fall within the parameters as far as the temperature regimes. So they're kind of on the low end, obviously, but they definitely fall within those parameters. So we are nervous that if walleye ever do get a foothold in Strawberry Reservoir, that it could have a big impact. And there are a few things you can do in spite of walleye in a trout fishery to try to stock larger fish, the timing of stocking and things like that to try to work around the presence of walleye in there. But it doesn't solve everything. Natural reproduction is still a big part of what we do up at Strawberry, and there's not much that's going to keep these walleye from hammering those naturally reproduced kokanee or cutthroat up in that system. So we're definitely concerned by this. Just to put things in perspective for you walleye fishermen out there that think that this might be a great thing, when we did our last management plan just a couple of years ago, a big part of that was to go out and get angler opinions on things. And one of the questions we asked specifically was, do you want other species put into Strawberry Reservoir? And 83% of the anglers said, no, we don't want you to mess with it. Of the 17% that did say they wanted something else in there, only 2% said that they wanted walleye. So with that kind of perspective, walleye are not highly, people are not thinking about them as being a great fish for Strawberry, not really something that they want to see in there. Unfortunately, this is just a selfish act of one person that wants it there for some reason or another. So what do we do from here? We've done a little bit of outreach trying to get the information out to the public. We're currently asking people to obviously report to catch, if they do catch another walleye, to kill it and report it to us, hopefully get the fish to us so we can do some different analysis on those fish. And we are going to be starting some efforts this coming spring to look for the presence of more walleye in Strawberry. We just had a meeting a couple of days ago trying to finalize some of those plans. And I think we've got a pretty good plan put together for what we're going to do this fiscal year to at least get started, to at least go out there and put forth a good effort to see if there are any more walleye are out there and what their prevalence is in the system. But what I'm asking for today, and we can switch over to the finance portion of this, Katrina, is that next year for fiscal year 25, we would like to step up those efforts a little bit. Obviously, if there's any reproduction out there, we're going to want to be able to document that. And also, one of the big things that we've been looking into is this environmental DNA sampling. And what that allows us to do is you go out there and essentially take a sample of water from the various locations around the reservoir and test that water to see if walleye DNA are present. And you can specify it to a specific species. And so they can take a sequence of walleye DNA and then basically look for that in your sample. And if it's found, then that tells you that there are walleye there. And so that's the theory behind it. This is kind of a new thing for me, so I've been doing a lot of research looking into this. I know that other guys in the Central region have used this effectively on some of their waters looking for unwanted species, and it's worked pretty well in some circumstances. So what we're proposing to do for FY25 is we want to do 75 samples. We're going to try to get hopefully 50 of them done this year if we can get the money and everything secured. But we want to ramp that up to about 75 samples around the reservoir to kind of basically do this grab of water and look for that walleye DNA out there in the reservoir. One of the things that we're going to try to do is focus all of our sampling during the spawning period. So early spring, as the ice is coming off and those walleye are most likely to be spawning, you're going to have a lot more of those gametes out in the water, which produces, obviously disperses more DNA out there in the water. So it's more likely that we're going to be able to get a positive hit if there is something there. And so the sampling would take place in that time. And we're asking for about, let's see, that's $8,500 for those DNA samples to get the kits and then to also have those results or the samples analyzed and get those results. The lab that I'm going through was about the cheapest and the quickest turnaround as well. He can get us results back within about a week to 2 weeks with those samples. We're also going to ask for some equipment. We're going to need some nets, specialized for walleye. They're longer panels than what we're normally used to using, and specific diameter mesh sizes on those to try to capture those walleye. We're going to be sending a lot of those nets again during that spawning period in the nearshore areas, try to capture those spawning walleye if we do have any of those adults out there. We're also asking for some light traps in that. The light traps we actually set later in the summer, and what these do is they actually have a light inside of them, and they attract the larval walleye, and you can essentially trap them in these boxes and then hopefully see if there's any reproduction out there with walleye. So that's something we might be looking to do in the future, especially if we do find that these fish are more prevalent than we hope that they are, and that there is a potential that there might be reproducing out there. We also are asking for a little bit of time in this, personnel time, about $2,800 there. We're pretty swamped a lot of times, during that time of the year. And so having somebody else on for a couple of months that could help us out doing that sampling would definitely go a long ways. We can do a lot with volunteers, and we actually do have different angler groups and supporters that are going to try to help us out as much as we can, but sometimes you just need somebody there that knows how to operate the boat and everything else to help run the show. So that's what we're looking for. I'm trying to think if there was anything else I missed about these, Trina, that I might have missed. Yeah, so if there's any questions about this, so feel free to answer any I can.
Excuse me. So through the DNA sampling, can you determine, well, I guess there's two different types of DNA. One where you're actually taking samples of the fish, and two, what did you call it, environmental DNA?
Environmental,
So with sampling from a specific fish, can you tell from their genetics what water they may have come from?
No, not from the genetics, but if we capture fish, so if we actually sample some in our netting or electroshocking or other means, we can look at the microchemistry on those otoliths to see where that fish might have come from. Now, it's difficult to say where they might have come from, but it's a lot easier. It might be easier for us to say whether they've been in strawberry their entire lives or not. Okay? So the way you do that is you look at the otolith, and the very center, and that otolith for all of you is the ear bone on a fish, right? It grows like a tree does. It just gets bigger and bigger as the fish grows, right? So the very center is when that fish was born. And so you look at the chemical composition of the very center of that ear bone and see if it's different than the chemical composition of the outer parts of the ear bone. Okay? And if it's different, if say the strontium or the bromium levels or something are different on the center than they are on the outside, then that probably tells you that fish has been moved from somewhere else to that body of water. That makes sense? So it's pretty easy to tell that. Now, if I just have a reading in the center, most of our waters, we have quite a few walleye waters actually in the state of Utah. It might be difficult to tease out exactly which water that might come from. It's possible, but we'd have to get samples from the other bodies of water and run all of those same tests on fish from those waters to see where it might fall out compared to the other waters.
What would you gain by doing all that?
Well, that part of it, very little. I mean, we might be able to narrow it down and say, hey, this came from starvation, which is what most people are saying anyway, right? But what it does tell us on the other sampling, if we just test to see if it was born in strawberry, is it tells us whether or not those fish were reproduced in strawberry or if those fish were just moved in from another body of water.
You don't suppose it was inadvertent through a ballast tank or something on a ski boat or something, or do you think it was intentional?
The size of fish that it was,
Well,
could
it have been sucked?
it could have been. It's impossible to say for sure if it was intentional or malicious, but my guess is it probably was. And if they're doing that, then there's probably going to be more if they survived.
Just going back to the isotopes from the recovery program has done strontium isotopes for walleye around the Colorado River Basin. Unfortunately, what they found with the starvation walleye was that they couldn't really distinguish, at least not using strontium, they couldn't distinguish from Lake Powell. So it's still kind of an unknown. So just wanted to throw that in.
Yeah, and that's where it gets fuzzy if you're looking at multiple waters. The strontium levels, like she says, might be very similar in some of these waters, so it's hard to tease it apart sometimes. But there are other elements you can look at too. So
How old was this fish, do you figure?
the unfortunate part is we didn't get the fish, so I can't tell you exactly.
You don't
But
know whether it's
but
male
it was
or
a
female?
25, 26-inch fish. Age on something like that, 10.
10 to 15?
Yeah, probably.
And don't know whether it was male or female?
It was a female.
Have you had anybody else come forward and report that they've caught walleye out of strawberry?
Fortunately, knock on wood, no.
Okay.
Hope it stays that way.
Did you guys do any fall gill netting after?
Unfortunately, this happened on the 21st of December, and no, we didn't have a chance to get out there.
Nothing in your fall gill nets?
Nope. Nope, nothing so far. So I don't think that they've been in there long. The other thing that we kind of have on our side, I was just running a little bit of analysis the other day after our meeting. I really honestly think the anglers are going to be our biggest asset in looking for more walleye. The potential for an angler to pick one of these up is probably a lot higher than me picking it up in a gill net, because we get a lot of pressure up there, a lot of angler hours. And so we're going to kind of rely on the anglers, and we need to get that word out to them even stronger than we've sent already, that, hey, we want your help on this. We want to know if you catch one.
Do we have any regulations to kill them if they're caught?
No, not yet. we're working through that process right now. We've got a meeting coming up next month with our director's office to talk about this and kind of lay out what our timeline is and what our path moving forward is going to be. So that may be coming. We are
If
encouraged.
we catch the person who planted the fish.
Yeah, wouldn't that be
Yeah.
nice? Well, actually, I'll mention that Sportsmen for Fish and Wildlife has offered up a reward if somebody is ever caught. So
Alan, isn't that time sensitive? 1st of May, doesn't a new print for regulations go out?
yeah, I mean, we always have the option for emergency
Emergency.
regulations, but
Be nice to have it in print,
wouldn't it?
catch and kill type thing.
Yeah, and there's some debate about that. I probably won't go into a whole lot of detail about theories and ideas and everything, but there are different approaches too. Sometimes one of the things that's often been thrown around with catch and kill is that you're actually encouraging the behavior that the people want anyway. The person who put it in there probably wants to take them home and eat them. So does a catch and kill give them more opportunity to harvest the fish that they want? So, I mean, there's just a few things to think about, and we probably need to come up with a really good approach to this to not only control the population if we need to, hopefully we don't, but if we need to control the population, we want to do that, right? But at the same time, we want to discourage that same kind of behavior in the future. So we need to be careful about it.
I don't have a question, but I have a statement. I'm a walleye fisherman, and kind of singled out walleye fishermen there. In my wildest dreams, I've never imagined walleye being in Strawberry. Strawberry is a premium trout lake and needs to remain that way. I know a lot of walleye fishermen that would never do this.
No.
But you've got a butthole
You just got
that you need to deal with.
just one person. It's just one person. Yep. Yep. And I agree with you 100%. In fact, we need to talk. I want to solicit some of your guys' help and ideas in the future. So that was one of the things that came up in our meeting the other day. Yeah. So thank you for the comment. Appreciate it. Anything else?
Nope, thanks.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, we did have a reminder from the IT folks to please use your microphone, the one that's nearest to you, when you are asking questions. And sorry online about some of the technical issues. I think we'll do better on this one. Yeah, okay.
And if you just want to go to the finance page, I'll keep it
Yes.
simple. Awesome. Thanks, guys. Again, for those online, I'm Tyler Robinson. I'm a sport fish biologist in the central region. This is kind of a different proposal. We talked about this already at our last meeting. I came to you guys with this proposal because a big discussion last year was, why are we not funding equipment purchases? Why are we doing all this labor? Why are we doing all this stuff? So I'm like, okay, I'll come with you to an equipment proposal. Mike and I have been using the same backpack shocker since early 2000s, even later than that, before I was even in school, I would think. This is a 20-some-year-old purchase. It's at the point where Smith Root has told us they are never going to fix it for us again if we have to send it back. Actually, funny story, after we had our equipment purchase or submission that our regions go through, that next day our electrofisher stopped working for a day, and we were like, oh crap, we're going to actually have to get one. So what I'm coming to you with is a new backpack shocker. This is a new system that Smith Root came out with. Smith Root is one of the few companies that creates these backpack shockers, and they've been around the business for a long time. They're used internationally, to be honest with you. They have this new system, the Apex unit, that is very user-friendly and adaptable for different environments. It tells you how to plug and play. You can put in water quality metrics, and it'll tell you what settings are ideal for shocking in that environment. Right now, Mike has pretty much got it dialed in, given his almost 30 years of experience, that in any system, he knows what to do. But we have come across some different areas, typically around the Provo River, water flows and stuff like that related to blue ribbon waters, and outside of blue ribbon waters at this moment, like Diamond Fork, that we have to play with our settings, and sometimes shocking becomes less efficient. Getting a new system for us would, one, improve that efficiency, and on top of that, help us advance in the technology world that we're coming into right now. There's been talks about this apex shocker in the northern region and how efficient it's been for their muskie surveys. Of course, this is a backpack shocker, but it's the same system. I was contemplating coming to you guys for a boat shocker unit instead of a backpack shocker, but we decided it wasn't the time and place for this at the moment. So it might be in the future if we need some updates here, but right now we're just looking for essentially $17,000. The backpack shocker alone is $16,000, and we're looking for $1,000 in just miscellaneous nets and equipment. I think we have one net in our stand right now that isn't being held together by zip ties. Mickey can account for that when he went out with us last fall. Just some miscellaneous equipment purchases. Mostly this request is a backpack shocker, and like I said, it's something to get us up to speed on where technology has gotten us to this point. Like I said, our equipment is old. We have two of the same units that are at least 20 some years old, and they are going to fail one day. And I'd like you guys to think about accepting this proposal and getting us back on track to become more efficient in our office. So I'll take any questions you guys might have.
Do you plan on asking for a second one next year?
At the moment, no. We have some ESMF funding that has been submitted as well. I think there's $2 million extra that went through, and we put a proposal in to them to get us a second shocker for our natives and sport fish, essentially. We do a lot of work in our region between natives and sport fish, so we're trying to have them fork the bill over for another backpack shocker right now. If we can get one, that would be an ideal situation for us. It's a very rare occurrence that we actually use both of our shockers at the same time. Typically a bigger system like the Provo, we might incorporate them, or Diamond Fork will incorporate them if we don't use our raft shockers. So a lot of it is we just need one new shocker, and we can cross the bridge if we lose our old shockers due to failure. So,
But obviously, you can only use this one on Blue Ribbon.
in theory, yes, but there is the opportunity to get new blue ribbon waters in our area. Like I said before, we have the Provo, we have Jordanelle, and we have Utah Lake. Mickey will shake his head because he doesn't want more public in his waters. But we're in the region. My region is 80% of the state's population. And for us to only have 3 blue ribbon waters, I think down the road we need to have some more in our region. Diamond Fork comes to our mind because we put so much restoration habitat in there, just like the Strawberry River, to get that thing back up. And I think that's going to be the more recent one. And we would use this in there to push for a new blue ribbon water to be Diamond Fork. So.
Keep it as potential, not listed. Then you can use some other.
We could, if you want to fork over another backpack shocker, Mickey, we could maybe work that in. But no, I think in the future, I've only been here for 2 years. I'm a blue ribbon biologist. I want to get more people fishing our waters besides the Provo River. It's an overwhelmed fishery. Let's highlight some of our other fisheries that are great in the central region, and this equipment could help us do that. So.
Just get a signature, tell him no more blue ribbons, and he'll sign off the 17th. Just out.
That do it? Any other questions?
No, we're just saying.
We're good. Nothing online?
With the audio online,
Yeah.
the log out, log back in.
Okay. Well, thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Nick would be up next, but he's upstairs presenting to Habitat Council. So we'll just, I feel like it'd be better if he talked about it. So we'll wait for him a little bit. I can speak to it a little bit if he doesn't make it down by the time we finish up, because we don't have very many projects to go through. But I'll go ahead and present on the helicopter project. I cannot do multiple things at once, so I'm going to stop talking, and I'm going to pull up the presentation, and then I'll start talking again. So awkward silence for a while. and then I need to share. Okay, folks should be seeing a presentation online. And this is just for Project 6981. This is helicopter support for the high Uintas rotenone treatments. And this is including rotenone treatments and restocking, which is a very important part of rotenone treatments, probably arguably the most. If you're familiar with any of our rotenone treatments, we have some pretty extensive ones. This one is covering the northeastern region. This is for the treatment number 2 for the South Fork of Sheep Creek, which is just on the north slope. Sheep Creek is the one, eventually flows into Flaming Gorge Reservoirs where we have the Kokanee Run at the very bottom. So this is looking up at the high country. South Fork Sheep Creek has Daggett Lake, and then a couple of other headwater lakes. We did treat this past year, and there were 3 days of helicopter use. It went really well. We learned a lot, I think, with how to schedule rides and trips in terms of, you can bring in more weight in the morning. You have to kind of lighten up loads in the afternoon. But we send in rotenone, boats, pumps, float tubes, PPEs, drip containers, personnel even. It's not wilderness. We're able to land for that. Most of these waters we treated out were brook trout, but there was some non-native cutthroat trout in there. And of course, eventually this will be part of that large meta population on the north slope, which will restore over 100 stream miles to Colorado River cutthroat. These drainages, when we use helicopters, it's a really long way in, or we're trying to save money on rotenone because liquid rotenone is really expensive in these bigger lakes. It's just less expensive to use powder. So even with using a helicopter, it ends up being a bit cheaper. So we're just trying to save a little bit of money by being able to use powder rotenone. But then this one, the South Fork, is a long way in, and we also had some big lakes. And there's a lot of us who are a little older as well, so it saves bodies and time as well. You can only ask so much of people, and when you're already asking them for some of the folks who helped out were from the northern region for 3 days in a row. That's a huge ask. Most of the people, though, we're asking them to come out for 1 day. If you have to hike in a really long way, stay the night, that kind of thing. It extends the ask that what you're requesting of them. So we covered a lot of trips over 3 days in 2023. We're going to ask for the same amount of money in 2024 just because we're not really sure what we're going to be able to, or what we're going to have to do. We have to go into the lakes, set some nets. If we are successful, then we can cut back on the ask, and I'll get to that here in a minute. But if we were unsuccessful at treating everything out of the lakes, then we will have to redo that treatment again. So there is potential for reducing this, but we just won't know until they can get in there, and you've got to err on the side of caution. The other aspect of this is what Brian talked about, the OWEEP treatment. If all goes well, the OWEEP treatment, we're ready to restock. And these guys you can see on the left there, if anyone has a better name for it, I keep calling it the helicopter stocking contraption, and that is really long. But helicopter stocking contraption, we just purchased this. This is out of Wyoming. This is something that they've been using just to helicopter stock their high country. And I think it takes about 10 loads, so 10 different areas we can stock. And we can, even in the wilderness, as long as we don't land, we can fly these in, drop it into, we use the fixed wings for lakes, but we can drop them into the streams that we've already treated. So East OWEEP and the main stem OWEEP. And so that's a big part of it, actually. After the treatment is done in July, early August, we'll wait for the cutthroat to get a little bit bigger, and they'll go out in September. That's assuming all goes well with the treatment. We'll be interested to see how long it actually takes. We expect it to just take a couple of hours, kind of hopeful that that's what it will take. But this is something that we'll probably try to do more of in the future. So it was 42,000 for the South Fork Sheep Creek treatment assistance. That's what we asked for and what we spent this past year. And like I said, we'll have to just plan on needing that again, just because we won't know until this summer, until they can actually get up there and set nets, if we'll have to redo the stream portion or not. The OWEEP restocking, that'll be 15,000. And this is just a blue ribbon request. So that was the end of the presentation. I will ask if Brian wanted to add anything. What's happening?
Yeah, I had a little bit of a hard time keeping up because your slides were not advancing through the show, but yeah, good job. I think you covered it. As Drew mentioned earlier, this is one of our capstone projects that once we're completed, we're not far from reaching that milestone of full species recovery, what we're designating full recovery. So it's a pretty exciting time. Overall, this is a pretty critical piece of equipment in knocking out this treatment. And like Trina mentioned, there's hopefully opportunity at the end of the project or learning later this summer, the ability to cut back a little bit too and save money that we can redesignate later.
Okay, thanks, Brian. Anyone have any questions or comments, including online?
Trina, have we got examples of 100% success story in these treatments around the state?
Yeah,
Where we get all the fish, 5 years later, there's still no unwanted?
yeah, Reeder Creek and Lynn Creek on the south slope. Brian and Garn and Natalie and I took that project on. I think Calvin even worked on that for quite a bit. That was kind of researching to see if mechanical removal would work for quite a while. And, you know, you leave that alone and walk away from that for a couple of years, and they were just right back at it. So we did those treatments. Brian, I bet, remembers the year. And, yeah, those have been successfully shown to be no brook trout up to this point. And it's been at least 5 years. Brian, go ahead.
Yeah, we could also include treatments prior to my current occupation, my seat. Like the whole Willow Creek complex, there's like 100 miles of bookless streams that would be categorized in there. If Calvin's still in the room, he could talk about Farron Creek treatments, the Range Creek treatment, one of the treatments. We got Timber Canyon in our region. I wanted to also add that we have additional methods to try and increase our chances of success or basically our knowledge base behind a treatment. For example, this last year, I spent quite a bit of Forest Service money that they came up with on some eDNA verification, where we're actually just collecting water samples, and it has a pretty high detection rate on brook trout or most fish species anyway. So yeah, there are methods that we can use to kind of go into those post treatments and really just double sure that we got everything. In general, we predict that our first treatments are not always going to be successful. You often go into a third year on stream treatments. I would add though that these lake treatments that we're proposing this year for the South Fork, they're pretty basic. I suspect that we probably got them all in the lakes. We just need to verify that.
Yeah, it seems like we're pretty good at, and I have to knock on wood, but we're pretty decent at treating lakes and not having to retreat. So I guess we'll see. Right, we are good at it.
With a lake, it helps that rotenone resides in the lake for about 3 weeks before it becomes chemically inert. Whereas in a stream, it's a flowing water, and in order to maintain a rotenone concentration, you have to drip it. And so you're only treating for 4, 5, or 6 hours, and it just, you don't end up with everything, treating everything. Then you get little nooks and crannies that get missed. Just because of the way streams flow, or you get fish larvae that reside under rocks. So those are usually the reasons why a first treatment fails. on a stream treatment.
We use sand mix and run them for 24 hours on strawberry.
Yeah, thanks, Brian. Any other questions for the helicopter? Okay, we'll just go into the, it's just blue ribbon monitoring. Again, awkward silence because I can't do multiple things at once. And this time I'll just pull up the,
I've got 57,000 down. Is that?
yeah, it was 42,000 for the, here, I'll just pull it up.
Yeah, it was on a,
42,000 for the South Fork Sheep Creek treatment assistance, and then 15,000 for a restocking. And that 42,000, that's what we paid last year. And we're thinking, well, we're erring on the side of caution and planning on having to do the same, everything the same, hoping that we won't have to. All right, did I? Yeah, Brian?
Yeah, just iterate. I think that 15,000 also covers some of the repatriation effort on the north slope as well, correct?
Oh, yeah, that is true. Yes.
Just wanted to add that there's another 20 miles of affected stream with that 15,000 restocking money.
Thank you. Okay. And I'm just going to show it in notes because the slides were not advancing for the online folks. Apologies for that. If I go back and forth between slide 1 and 2, Brian, can you confirm that it's moving?
You're good.
Oh, great. Okay, so this is 6980. This is Blue Ribbon Fisheries Monitoring. I basically asked all of the regions, what are you doing for creel surveys this year? Which is, most of you probably know, but if you're not familiar with the creel survey, it's basically an angler survey. We're just talking to people on the ground, and there's just a statistical design. You have to be out there a certain number of times every month for every month that you want data. You cannot get single responses. You have to get multiple data points so that you can have error around your estimates. And we basically try to put all of our major waters on a cycle, and just so we can have this information like catch rates, harvest rates, angler preference. If you put quite a bit more money into it on these bigger waters, you can get an estimate of total angler effort, like how many hours people spend out there, and then you can actually calculate the total number of fish of each species harvested. For places like Flaming Gorge, like Powell, that is really difficult and adds a lot of money. So we've kind of pulled back from that on a lot of these places, but somewhere like Fish Lake, that's actually very doable. So the Lake Powell request is for a 7-month creel starting July 1st. They said that they needed $10,500 in personnel and $4,200 in current expense. Again, this is basically just Lake Powell is on a rotational cycle, just like all of our other major waters, and it's time to get in there and understand and basically keeping your finger on the pulse of what is happening at Lake Powell in terms of the fishery and just what people are seeking when they go there. And then the southern region also proposed Fish Lake. So the region will be doing that. They'll be doing that July 1st through June 30th. That is the whole fiscal year. So it's a year-long creel. They'll be looking at the ice component as well. They've asked for $6,500 in personal services, $6,500 in current expense. A little bit more driving probably with that one coming from the regional office. So yeah, again, kind of the same thing, just at a different water body, but still very important. Both of those are very important waters for the southern region. And those are the only krill surveys that folks wanted to do. Ryan was talking about doing a Flaming Gorge. No, we just did that, a Green River creel, and decided to postpone until the Forest Service, they're talking about doing a user survey there through their through their entrance station. So we're going to do those at the same time to try and get additional information. So, so it's just Lake Powell and Fish Lake for this year. But we do have what is considered an additional ask, and it's just sampling. And it's basically to help the regions bring on some technicians and sample, and basically all of the time they would spend on Blue Ribbon Waters, that those technicians would spend on Blue Ribbon Waters. We've basically asked the Blue Ribbon Council to fund that this year. And that is just because of a decrease in federal aid that is starting to happen. We're trying to reverse, but federal aid does come to us from, it's nationwide. It's a nationwide thing, right? So it's excise taxes and license sales and all of that, and it goes into the big bucket overall, and based on the number of anglers you have in your state, it's reallocated out. And it sounds like, from what I've been told, the big decrease is actually coming from like charter fishing boats. Ocean charter fishing has seen major declines in the last few years. So that means everyone needs to get out of the state and go get a charter fishing trip or two every year, so we can keep this back up, right? Pick this back up. The other aspect, and this is why I say we've been trying to work on it. The other aspect is we've seen a decrease in our out-of-state anglers. So there was a blog post put together about the six waters to fish, and kind of, most of it was special projects, but some of it was just waters that are nearby some of our parks, the national parks that people would come to see anyway, or they're near like other states, right, adjacent to other states. And we're just trying to remind people that this is a great year. The reservoirs are getting pretty full. Gas prices were low for a while. It's just always a good time to come back to Utah. So you'll probably be seeing a little bit more of that throughout the spring as well. And that's why, because our out-of-state license sales are down. So it all comes back around. So we wouldn't normally ask for you to fund technicians for work on Blue Ribbon Waters, but this is kind of a crazy year coming up. In the central region, they said that they would be having folks at Strawberry, Deer Creek, Provo River, Jordanelle. Northeastern region is requesting funds to work on Lake Canyon, Sheep Creek, the High Uintas, including the rotenone treatments and the restocking and all of that. Flaming Gorge and Green River, and Strawberry and Duchesne rivers. And the northern region, Bear Lake and the Swan Creek Trap. And then the southern region will be working on Clear Creek, and he just said a number of other Blue Ribbon Waters. So these are the kinds of things. I mean, I guess I'll go up and just talk about the pictures. This is Green River electrofishing. We usually have quite a few folks helping out on that. Flaming Gorge lake trout netting. It's very NER centric. I have a lot of pictures from the NER, but this is Strawberry River sampling below Starvation Dam a few years back. And you can see that's a lot of people out there. So it is important to get technicians, and then you also need volunteers. But and then there's $1,000 in this budget that's actually to continue the rewards tagging program at Starvation. If we can continue it another year, we can start looking at further exploitation and some other things that you can't get in 1 year. So, so just to summarize all of that, this picture is a picture of the guys going into OWEEP. So a lot of NER pictures. I'll have to hit you guys up before get some pics from some other regions in future years. But so it's a bigger ask than normal. The creel total is only $27,700. That's pretty normal. The sampling one is $122,300 total, and then $1,000 for the reward tags. So it's $151,000 that we're asking, and that's a big part of why we have more requests than what Blue Ribbon has the ability to fund this year. It's this. So,
You know what that total is, Trina?
the total that we're,
I've got like 565,000 total requests. Is that,
well,
or do you have that running total somewhere?
can you see that? Do I need to blow that up? I need to blow that up, huh? So because I forgot to add in the Strawberry River project, which wasn't a ton of money from Blue Ribbon, but it did increase it a little bit. It's 608,000-ish is what we're looking at now that, and just so everyone knows, yes, I did forget to put the Strawberry River restoration in there, but it's in there and it's in everyone's score sheet now. So if you go across the bottom, it's in everyone's folder. So that and the other one.
This spreadsheet to us?
Yes, so I was going to go over that later, the Google site, and I'll show you where you can link up to it. As long just all you'll have to do in the future is go to the Google site, and everything will be there. So if you can keep that, and if we can make sure that everyone has the ability to get on that. TJ and I struggled through that a little bit, but we finally, I think it was a sharing issue. I didn't have the right sharing settings, but I think it's good to go now. But we were going to spend a little time with that later this afternoon. Any questions on sampling and the Blue Ribbon monitoring request? Okay. I do not have a presentation for, that's weird. I don't have a presentation for the administration. I figured I would just talk about that one. That one's not very exciting. So it's a $7,000 request. It's the same from last year. And that budget just helps run the program. So it pays for anyone who comes from over 100 miles away gets a reimbursement if they want it. So it pays for that. It pays for lunches at the meeting. Still trying to figure out everything that it does pay for, but there was a question about whether or not we could get QR codes on like Blue Ribbon handouts and the Blue Ribbon signs so that people could, at the expo or wherever you are can, just come up and take that picture and be sent to the Blue Ribbon page or, whatever we want to link up to. And so if we're going to do that, then we'd spend a little bit of money on outreach materials. So that's a possibility. So it sounds like that number has come down quite a bit in the last few years, but I wanted to keep it the same just because this is my first year. So just throw it to the top. I'm just kidding. That's a good question. We need administrative money. So in a way, I'm almost like, we'll probably just pull that to the top, right?
It helps every category.
Yeah.
Yeah, do you want to eat or not?
Yeah, I don't want to deal with grumpy folks. No, I'm just kidding. Yeah, go ahead, Rich.
So I've got a couple of comments if we're at a point where we're just opening up.
Yeah.
Are we?
So Nick still has to present his, but he's still up at Habitat Council. So if you want, I can try to just talk about it and then we can finish up all the projects. Or if you want, we could just wait for him. How do you want to do it?
Why don't we cover what we can? Maybe we can even do some of the business while we're waiting for Nick to come.
Okay, and just wait for Nick. Okay.
That's just his ongoing.
It is his ongoing position. I just feel like he can tell you guys better about what he does day to day.
He could be right under administration to the top. Nick's a great guy.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
you had some comments, Rich?
Yeah.
Yeah, two different things. The second one I'll come back to in a second about the snow removal. But last week, the Wasatch Fly Fishing Expo happened. And every year before the expo, we have a banquet dinner. And the banquet dinner typically is highlighting people that have been elected to the Fly Fishing Hall of Fame. And this year we didn't have anybody that was elected into the Hall of Fame, but I wanted to make note that Clint was given an award by Trout Unlimited. And it was kind of surprising, and I was unaware that Trout Unlimited actually has 5 full-time employees in the state of Utah doing projects. I mentioned this to Clint during lunchtime that I was going to be bringing this up, and he's a little bit more knowledgeable about why he got the award, but he was totally surprised. I mean, you see him how excited and surprised he was when he was at the table and just stood up and accepted the award. But I think we should recognize Clint for his hard achievement and being recognized by Trout Unlimited. So I just wanted to bring that up, and hopefully when he comes back in, I guess he's doing a presentation upstairs as well.
Probably, yeah, when he comes back in, we'll just
Yeah.
turn and stare at him and give him a round of applause and just embarrass the crud out of him. That sounds like a good idea. It's always nice when, you know, your colleagues are, you know, acknowledged for their efforts because you know how hard they work, you know.
Awesome.
So
Very cool.
secondarily, regarding the snow removal out at Strawberry. So it was kind of interesting that apparently the Forest Service will be charging for that parking. I don't want to focus so much on that as much as our scoring system relative to a project like that that's asking for a fair amount of money. So as I looked at it, the Strawberry Reservoir Co-op Snow Fund, Snowplow Fund for fiscal year 2025, I scored it as a 10. So it provides better access to one of our blue ribbon streams, but it does absolutely nothing for habitat or the fish population. So I'm getting back to, I think, what I said a few months ago when I asked about who came up with this scoring system and is it really appropriate for everything we're discussing in terms of blue ribbon fisheries and putting money in the right direction.
Yeah.
To me, this, and I'll just stop in a second. The snowplow is a typical example of not fitting the criteria of this scoring system. I have my own personal beliefs about the snowplow scenario and where the money's coming from and where it's going, but I think in terms of, I just want to focus on the scoring system and how it applies or doesn't apply to projects that we're looking at.
Yeah, and I found out a lot about the water body scoring system, but I did not ask about the project scoring system. That wasn't on my radar at the time, so I don't have any background. I don't know if anyone, Calvin, do you have any knowledge about how
You know,
it was
Trina,
developed?
I agree with him. It doesn't fit the criteria. I think there maybe ought to be an additional column, maybe cost benefit. I mean, there's a cost for that snowplow, but look how many it benefits, and maybe score it that way.
Yeah.
Because it doesn't help with fish population or habitat or any of that stuff, but look how many fishermen it benefits, and that's where we get our money from, is fishing licenses. So we're benefiting fishermen, but it ought to have a scoreable column.
The amount of ice fishermen in that parking lot in a given year is astronomical.
Yeah.
So I'm not disagreeing with the direction. I think the scoring system we need, and thank you for the input, needs a little bit more tweaking or analysis.
Like a little bit more weighting on angler access or something like that. Ryan, go ahead. Ryan, are you there? Maybe. Yeah, go
Sorry.
ahead. Oh, there you go.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, echo what's been said, but you do have to kind of play a little mental gymnastics. Like, yeah, it doesn't have it doesn't increase habitat or the population, but it really does if it provides an area for people to go fishing, and then the license funds and everything, and then the focus that the biologists put into the fishery is indirectly helping the population and the habitat. That's all I was gonna say.
Yeah, and let me find out about I guess just how the scoring was developed for this. What I guess the process was and what we were going for, and see if maybe there's a little bit different weighting, maybe that we could try to.
Do we know whether Habitat Council uses the same scoring system? Does anybody know that?
I don't know, but I don't think they do.
Be interesting to see.
Yeah.
It's almost unfair to these guys presenting these projects, you know, for Alan in this situation, because he could actually come out with a very low score because of the criteria that you're supposed to meet. But look at the benefit it gives to fishermen, and the fishermen's dollars is where we get our money from, you know, so there ought to be some other column to raise his score up for something like that, yeah.
Yeah, just a couple of thoughts, and I've expressed this before, and I think in years past, other representatives on the council have, and we get these reoccurring budget items like snow plowing, and I'm in favor of it, and, you know, we're gonna throw, what, $10,000-$11,000 at this thing. I'm just curious why that's not a budget item in the DWR's operating budget. You know, it goes the same way with the biologist down in the southern region. This will be the, I think, 4th or 5th year I've voted in favor of that deal. But I mean, that's that's what, $82,000 that could certainly enhance work on some of these other projects. And again, Nick needs the guy or gal, and I'm, you know, in favor of that. But again, that seems like an operating budget item. I mean, when I was in the corporate world and we reserved for these kind of things, that would be in the normal operating budget, not out of a, you know, restricted kind of funds area. Because you look at some of these projects, and I think we're over budget here by, what, 100 grand, 150 grand? You know, 82,000 is a big chunk of money, and you add another 10, well, we're almost to 100,000 there. And that could fill in the gap of, you know, some other project needs. So, you know, I'm not opposed to supporting these items, but certainly, you know, again, this will be the 4th or 5th year I've expressed this, that these things ought to come out of an operating budget, not out of restricted funds. And because it's a little illusionary to think that, well, if the funding doesn't come in one year for Blue Ribbon, I mean, not that that's been the case in the 4 or 5 years I've been around here, but that could happen at some point, you know. License fees are down, legislature, we have a bad year in tax revenues, they cut the DWR budget. You know, these things have been known to happen in the past, and, you know, we've had a lot of good years here in Utah, and I hope we continue to be blessed. But I'll just share my reservations again on how we're funding these things, some of these projects, and I'll just leave it at that.
Sure, I definitely hear what you're saying, and I just don't have a good feel for why those can't be incorporated into the, you know, just the main operating budget, but I can find out more information.
Well, we had that
There's a
raised with
history.
Randy. We've talked about that. It's never been too big a problem because our asks were always less than our budget, but this year we're over budget.
Yeah, it's a
So
big deal when you have more.
it becomes acute now. Randy had some explanation of the problems of getting that kind of funding for that position, so we would do it on a temporary basis. And I was the same way. By the time you throw in Social Security and benefits, you know, we're into it 120 grand for a person. And it's always, I think the point that you folks have brought up today is it needs to be addressed and stuck in the budget rather than coming out of our 450. I've asked why we couldn't get more than 450, but I was told to be quiet about that. So there's some, I think there's some politics involved.
Yeah, when Nick and I were communicating, when he found, you know, he was thinking he might miss his, you know, his scheduled time to present on his project, and we were just talking about it. He's been funded this way since the inception of the Blue Ribbon program, that position. So it's been a long time, and he did say that that was kind of part of the original intent of the Blue Ribbon program. So I don't know if that means that the intent was to have every region have a Blue Ribbon biologist, and that just didn't happen, or what that means exactly. But it just sounds like it was that was part of the original intent, was to have this money to fund biologists more so than projects. Calvin, did you?
Yeah, originally the Central Region's position was funded out of the Blue Ribbon Council also. And over the years, it got pulled out into their main budget. But it was set up to pay for the Blue Ribbon biologists and not necessarily the projects. And over the years, they've been able to fund positions with other funding. I think Nick's position, or this funding, I think it's been since the creation of the Blue Ribbon Council. I think it goes all the way back to when Richard Hepworth was in the Blue Ribbon biologist clear back then.
Well, it sounds like it can be done, though. It's been done in another region.
You'd think through attrition somewhere, they could maybe pull that funding and cover it. But
All I can do is write it down, say noted, and I will find out, and I will, we'll just see. I don't see it happening in a year like this, where we expect it to be, we expect it to be a short year anyway, where we're a little bit worried about funding, but, what I found over the years, you just keep asking, and pretty soon you're so annoying, you get what you want. I shouldn't have said that on the thing. Anyway, any other comments, questions, concerns about the process? Go ahead, Ryan.
Yeah, I just had one quick question on the project that you added, the Strawberry River Restoration. In the scoring, it doesn't have the full 0 to 10. It just goes 0 to 5.
Oh, okay. I can.
Just as like in the scoring sheet. Yeah, so just in the scoring sheet, that line needs to be edited so you can do the full scoring.
Okay, thanks for letting me know. I'm gonna make a note of that. I'll get to that. You might even be able to, if you want to, just delete that drop-down menu and,
Just put it at the bottom or something.
yeah, that might be, if you wanted to do it, take care of it today. If you can wait till tomorrow, I can get in and do that tomorrow. I just don't know that I can do it till.
Okay, yeah, no problem. Just so you knew that was going on.
Yeah, thank you.
didn't I see where you didn't want them till April 4th or 5th, Trina?
Yeah, I was gonna mention that. If you guys have scores in sooner than April 4th, that's fine, but if you could get them all in by April 4th, that would help me. Then I can talk with Daniel and with Drew and make sure we get as many of these projects funded with all of the funding sources that we have available, just as many as possible. Go ahead, Rich.
I just wanted to thank you, Trina, for all the efforts that you've put into building that website and putting all the information in one location. It's huge.
Cool.
To be able to bookmark it, click on it, and have access to everything right there, without even having to type in your password, that's great.
Good. I'm glad that it's.
Thank you very much.
work out. You're very welcome. And I feel bad about like email blasts. Tell Josue, is she ever gonna stop emailing? And I don't like to email. Everything gets lost. So, if it's like every single document has to do its separate email, like that's just annoying. So this time, now I can just add stuff to the site, and then I can give you guys a heads up with a quick email. Hey, something on the website, or go check it out. So I'm excited about it as well. And we can, go ahead, Terry.
I have a thought about the snowplow project and what we've talked about, what's been said. And I don't know that I understand exactly how everything works, but if that money is moved out to an ongoing fund, we don't have control to be able to say, yes, we will fund it. No, we don't want to fund it. What usually happens with something like that is the powers to be, those that hold the purse strings, say, oh, okay, well, you don't want that. You don't want to deal with that. So what we'll do is we'll just reduce your budget by $15,000 a year, and we'll go ahead and take care of it on an ongoing basis. So I think we need to be a little bit careful moving forward. And like I say, I don't know that I understand exactly how that works, but I think we need to be careful if that is how it works.
Yeah, it's a good thought, actually. You never know what's going to happen with the, a budget change like that. Ideally, maybe if the forest is going to charge for it anyway, I'm not saying that's good or bad or whatever, but if they're going to charge for it anyway, maybe they can increase that, their contribution or just take care of it. Yeah. Sure, go ahead.
Or a comment, really. A question and comment. So should we add a column by chance on our scoring sheet to have us just individually rank what we think are the most important, just a 1 through whatever, in case it doesn't work out, and it gives you something else to kind of base it on as a group, on what we think the most important projects are.
So let me try to turn that on. I'll just go through. I'm going to zoom out a little bit. And I guess I should share this with everyone. We can just go through what I was kind of planning, and then if that's not going to cover it, then maybe we can make some changes. But each of you has, and I'm sure you've been in there and you've seen it. It's been updated, but like Ryan says, I just need to go in here, and for that Strawberry River, I need to change the scoring. Other than that, it's good to go. So go in and add in all of your scores. And the way we'll do this is that I'll total it up, so everyone will have a score for each project, and then I also have a score. These are just, they're a little bit different than what you guys have. They just don't change, right? They're all like, none of them are focal waters anymore, but were the fiscal details presented, things like that are just not going to change. So there was no need to add it to your guys' scoring sheet. But my score will get added to yours, and then so everyone will score each water body, and then we can, I think the makes the most sense to just probably add it all together. I think that's what Randy did. So we add it all together, then we end up with it should be a prioritized list from everyone, in which case then, how many, how many projects you can score. And then if something changes, right, like, if whatever changes, right, like, maybe we don't need as much for technician, we can reduce that or whatever. I'm just trying to be hopeful. Then if that frees up some space to be able to fund more projects, then we'll just go to the next one and the next one, right? So it's like, as long as you've got a prioritized list, you can kind of work with that list. I don't know how it works if you come to the bottom of your list of funded projects and you've only got enough to partially fund. But I'm sure they've got a way to deal with that, and maybe between Habitat Council can pick up just a little bit more or something like that. I think that's why I will get together with Daniel and with Drew and just try and make things work.
I think that's happened before where Habitat did step in and pick up.
Yeah, and I know they've got a lot of asks this year as well, so.
Did a lot of shuffling, and I think Habitat's got 3 times, or is it 4.5? I think they're multiple. Is it? Yeah, they've got a lot of money.
Well, and it's also interesting because, I scored these and we do this every year, but the position, Nick's position, really comes out on top, number one, because you can argue every single category, every single question there, that it's going to be high, whereas most of the projects are only hitting 1 or 2 of them, so anyway, it's just interesting how that works out.
I know there can be some money moving around Mike's Diamond Fork work. It didn't get funded for all the habitat work they were doing for wildlife, but they funded his river restoration work. So there is options to do partial funding on stuff if their projects are segregated out enough where there's certain work to be done at a cheaper cost. And then he was able to move that money actually this year into the Nebo barrier that failed due to the floods. So there is options if you guys are flexible with it, but I don't know how all that works. But there is opportunity that stuff can be half funded if it works for the work for that it's going towards, so.
So technically, Blue Ribbon doesn't quote carry over. Normally, we would try to shuffle things around to projects that need more money and get it spent. But because of the budget shortfalls this year, we've been told if there's anything left, then we're going to use that to try to cover some of that budget shortfall to help with defraying some of the charges to budgets that do carry over. So a little bit of money shuffling, but yeah, it's a bummer year that way, so apologize for that, but a lot of cool projects, I would say. So I think when it's all said and done, I think we can rest assured that we're going to see some cool projects get funded. So Nick is actually upstairs presenting right now. So he should be down shortly, but we can probably just go ahead and get started on the rest of it if you wanted to. Oh, yeah, let's take 5. It's always good to take 5. Okay. Yeah, okay, so come back at 2:16. You ready to get going? Sorry about that. I think we got to jibber jabbering and catching up and yeah, getting back to it a little bit late. Let's just start. You want to just start going through the other business items? Okay, and I'm gonna pull up the November. Ooh, maybe actually what I'll do is I'll go into my site because everything is linked from the site. So this is what it looks like when I'm working in it. So you guys get to see how the sausage is made, but I can still go to the links. Okay, so oops, no.
I looked at it yesterday, it was really easy to follow.
Oh, good. Yeah.
Computer illiterate, and it's easy to get through it.
Yay. That's awesome. Oh, except the November, that's 2023, so I can't just go in there. Okay, going to the November meeting notes. Oh, there's just so much stuff in these files. Okay, there it is. Go ahead and share so you guys can see what we're looking at. So much. Oh, geez. Sorry.
November 16, 23.
Yep, look at that. I went to fiscal 23. That doesn't help. There's just so much clicking and trying to figure out where you're going.
And with lots of people watching you.
I know, that doesn't help. It's like trying to hurry and. Okay, let's blow that up and then I'll go in and share. Okay, November 16th meeting notes. Okay, is everyone seeing meeting notes? So, and I did not, we don't have the January meeting notes yet, so I'll get those out as soon as those are available and we'll just have to approve those in June, but those are the only two outstanding ones. So it's this one. I set some 2 or 3 week deadline to get comments. I didn't get any comments back from anyone, so hopefully everyone did have a chance to review. But I just went through it. It seemed pretty good to when I read through it. Does anyone have any comments they wanted to mention? Just didn't get in time.
I just saw a couple of typos, but I can't remember whether I said anything about them or not.
I didn't get them, but you can send them to me if you wanted.
Okay. And that's
So.
it, just some typos is what I saw.
Okay.
Track my notes.
TJ, could you turn your microphone on?
I just found a couple of typos. That's all I found when I looked at it. My handwritten notes compared to the minutes, they seem to track pretty well. And I'll send the typos to Trina for finalization. But I can tell you what they are for the record. On the 3rd page there, it's planning to do targeted sampling in 2224, so that should be 2024. And
Yep.
that's about it, really.
Good eye. Okay. Made the change.
Anybody find anything substantive to correct? Apparently not.
Okay. Do you want to do a vote?
Yeah, call it. All in favor of approving the minutes of November 16, 2023? Say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay, got that.
Okay. Great. I'll get those posted on the public meeting website where I have to post this since these are all public meetings. Does everyone want them? You have them in your inbox. Do you want them? I could put them on the site, I guess. I didn't have a space for it, but I could go ahead and add them if you wanted me to, if you wanted access to those that are easier or the easy access. Okay. Yeah. I'll go ahead and do that then. Okay, on to the next. So, yeah, it's just the Google site. I'll just walk everybody through it. I'll go ahead and share it with everyone online. So you should be seeing, again, this is the draft. I could go ahead and, if we just, oh, it's not gonna let me do it. All right, we'll just do it in editor. Like I said, I can go to all the different links regardless. So this is the Google site that Randy suggested we create. So you can see it's one-stop shopping for everything. So you scroll down with the welcome, just some information. If you hit learn more, you can see it's attached to this link, and that goes to the Blue Ribbon website. So when you're in your link, then it'll actually go to the website, whereas I'm just, I can just show you that link here. Here's where the water body scoring is, and so here's some information on location. You can see down here, ready to evaluate the waters, click here. That's not live yet. I don't have the score sheet yet, but that's my next thing that I'm gonna work on. So when I have that up, I will just shoot you guys an email or text or whatever, just let you know it's up. And as you go to visit the water bodies, then you can add in your scores at your leisure. So I'll go to this, because I did wanna talk, it's part of the agenda, just talk about the water bodies that we are reviewing for the year. So you follow that link and it'll take you to this page. And so here are the reservoirs. You've got Schofield, and then I have it linked to the Fish Utah site for Schofield. So if you don't know, if you've never been to Schofield, you should be able to go here, and you can also call Calvin. Hopefully y'all have his phone number, but you can go to this the Fish Planner website for it. You can see what you're likely to catch, directions to the location, the amenities, all that. You guys are probably familiar with the Fish Utah webpage anyway, right? So, and then I also did it for, did you?
We're gonna be updating the Schofield one with the copiers and stuff for the management plan up there also.
Oh, good, okay.
Some of the data and then some of our analysis from our netting efforts will be put up on there also.
Okay, great.
That will probably be under the notes section. Then recommendations for, fishing and stuff is under the DWR
So here.
forecast. We do it quarterly. So there's
Yeah.
recommendations on where to fish and how to fish for species in there. That we will update that again in, I think, May 1st. We'll re-update that one.
Okay.
Are you still planning to do some gill netting up there?
Yes, I was gonna mention it during volunteer opportunities, but I can do it now. We will be conducting our spring gill net surveys on Thursday, May 9th at 9 a.m. at the Mountain View Boat Ramp.
That's pulling that.
Yes.
I think that was listed in volunteer.
It should be, yeah.
Yeah, and I have that here on the Word document. Yeah, that's on that spreadsheet, and there's a link to the spreadsheet in the site. We'll go over that. So hopefully it's all, yeah.
And we should have ice off by then. We've only missed that date once in the last 10 years. So
Okay.
we're usually like a week ahead or right after the ice off, so we should be right around. So if for some reason we prolong and we need to kick it back to be able to let everybody know. We've netted that date for the last 10 years.
Cool. Thanks, Calvin. Current Creek Reservoir is also linked here to the Fish Planner. And then starvation again. So then each of the reservoirs, there's a date that either they're going to do some netting, or for starvation, I think you guys have talked about a fishing trip on date to be determined. So when that date is available, I'll go ahead and update this Word document, and when I send out that update via email, I'll also include the date for that, so you guys know. But that'll be specifically for fishing, for those of you who want to hit that water. Whereas the Current Creek netting and even like Schofield, it's going to be pulling nets, and it won't be an organized fishing trip per se, but we'll be up there doing our activities, and you guys can pull your boats and fish as well, or you can just see the results of the netting and help out with that.
Just remember, there's a reason they call it starvation. Sometimes it's good,
And if you are attending the Schofield gill netting, fishing is usually pretty good that time of year for cutthroat trout and rainbow. And the tiger muskies are pretty active that time of year too. You can see them cruising the shoreline quite a bit, so it could be a good time to fish if you're looking for trout action.
It is. It's the Fred Hayes Reservoir Conservation or something like that. I don't know. I just put Fred Hayes' name. Just Fred Hayes State Park? Okay. Yeah. 2 directors ago. Josue, did you have anything to add? Are you good? No. Okay. 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 Sounds good. So yeah, Natalie's gonna put together its additional information, and we'll go ahead and include that in here. So, yeah, by the time we're ready to, fish and start rating water bodies, you guys should have plenty of information. The rivers here are all linked to the fish planner as well. The Duchesne River, this is the main stem. You can see, I'm gonna take that away. So. So it's not a lot of it. It's so these are, I guess I was going to point out, these are all access points where yeah, that's where you have to enter the river, but the easement itself is, where is Hannah? Hannah's store must be somewhere around here. Oh no, it's right here. So yeah, the all of these are access points. The easement itself, you can walk this whole length as long as you stay within the riverbed. You can only access at these locations, and there are parking areas. And what I mentioned last time, and as far as I know, and the people that I asked, no one's heard anything, so it's not yet happened. It's actually just this area here. There's a parking area right here on the highway, and then you basically walk down and you access the river here. When that sail goes through, you'll be able to walk upstream, the North Fork or the West Fork, but you won't be able to walk downstream through here. I mean, I shouldn't say that. You won't be able to fish. You will be able to walk. We'll put signs up saying stop fishing unless you have a tribal permit, but that has not gone through. So you will be able to walk through it. I think they understand that, this is supposed to be a continuous section of stream. You just can't fish. But it's really only, I honestly don't know how far, but it's probably, this length. Yeah, and if you were to look online and pull up like a plat map, whatever is Forest Service right now, that would be transferred. That's what's going to be sold over. And then the West Fork is another water body. So yeah, this is a confluence right here. So the North Fork and the West Fork come together. And the West Fork, you can, as long as you're entering the river at designated access points, you can walk all the way up. But there are these different access points. And then there's this one that's up by the Forest Service. And then above that one, it's just all Forest Service up there, and you can access it wherever. And then there's also the Strawberry River below Starvation and Current Creek. And I think it's Current Creek, yeah, Water Hollow up to the headwaters, not including the reservoir. That's the Blue Ribbon section. And then the Strawberry River below Starvation. These have access points as well, where it's a little funky, but it works out right. So you have these access points where you can access it. And there's actually even a couple up here that aren't even listed, that there's actual designated parking areas. But you can walk the whole thing as long as you're staying within the river. There is a tribal section through there down lower, so you'll want to make sure that you're not in that tribal section. But if you were to stay up in this area where I think most people probably fish anyway, that's all accessible and just fine.
Is that feet wet or within high water?
I don't remember how the easement's worded. We have those easements, so we can look at that. I just can't remember how it's worded.
Can you fish above the spillway screens that are supposed to go in?
So you can fish in that stilling basin, but every year that spills, we do a rotenone treatment, so you don't really want to. It doesn't, like, we treated it last year, and then I think maybe was probably treated that big water year, right? So then there's maybe like 2 years in between treatments max, so you don't want to.
Can we have you talking to the mics, please? We're having a hard time hearing online.
Oh, okay. Sorry about that. Yeah, we might need to move them around a little bit. Okay. So that's the information for the water bodies that we're going to rate and rank this year, and a little information on when we're going to do some activities. We won't do September 23rd and 24th for Current Creek Reservoir. That's the netting. So a little bit later in the season. Starvation will be over the summer sometime. And then the rivers will kind of just be on your own, but hopefully between the fish planner, Colin, myself, Natalie, Josue, you should be able to get the information that you need. So upcoming volunteer opportunities is the next one, and that's just that link where you can look and see what's going on, and just a big thank you to the biologists who've been keeping up with that. That's going to help me as well. I'm hoping to get out and help out. So that's there. And then this is the link to go and register for the volunteer hours. So thank you to those who have done so. I can put your time in for this meeting. I'll take note of, start and end time. So I can go ahead and take care of that. I was able to input some of Rich's time from the expo. And then I got hung up on the third entry. So hopefully we can get that fixed. But I think it should be pretty easy. We'll have to do this every fiscal year. So July, you'll get a notice from me with this link saying, please go in and redo it. And that's just because we get, your time is used for match for federal aid. And it's based on the fiscal year. So they'll close this out. They'll have us close it out after our June meeting. So I'll need you to sign up every fiscal year, but I think that's all it's going to take. So like those of you who went in, right, this sign up is pretty easy. It's your customer ID that's on your fishing license, date of birth, email, phone number. If you don't have an email, I think you all do, but they told me you can use anyone's email. They just need an email address. So they'll just harass you about other like upcoming similar projects and things like that. So it's not like you'll get lots of spam. They'll just say, hey, there's another project coming up. Here's all the projects, and I think Blue Ribbon would just be. You could put mine. I don't see Blue Ribbon. I know it's in there though. What the hey? All right, well, you guys were able to figure it out, some of you. So did you have to click on Blue Ribbon, or did you just you just signed up and just put your information in?
On what part?
So when you were signing up for the volunteer hours, did you have to do anything with this, or did you just hit the sign up button and that was it?
I just hit the sign up button. At that point, I didn't try to go in and enter any hours.
Yeah. Yeah, and you guys shouldn't have to enter hours. For meetings, I'll know what your hours are. But if you do go to a water body for the rating, let me know those hours just as soon as you can, and I'll enter them for you. That's how I've been told it's going to work. Then down here under the grayling, this is the Blue Ribbon Project proposal score sheet. So I think most of you have probably been in that. This is what I've been updating as I've realized I've missed different things. But it's all updated. It's all in there. Like Ryan pointed out, again, I have to change that scoring on the one. But that is where you'll go to do that. We could go over the latest budget while I'm here and showing you that. So we just got the month 8 to date expenditures. I don't want to shrink that, but I'm going to have to. Maybe I'll just move this over. And so all in all, I think we're looking pretty good. We're about 44% expended. So people are spending money like they should be. Some of them, like we've talked about in the past, right? Some of the habitat stuff is just going to have to wait. In the bathroom, I think up at Strawberry, it's just going to have to wait till the ground thaws and things warm up. So you'll see that, I think, in the next couple of months. The snowplow stuff, they've been up there plowing, but we haven't seen any charges for that. But we just get one lump sum, Alan said, in like April or so. So I think that we'll probably be pretty close to being completely expended. And I'll just keep updating this as we get month 9 and 10 and whatever to-date expenditures. So if you're interested, you can keep looking at that. I will update it. And then here is the outreach schedule that we put together. And I'm trying to keep this updated just as we do things. So we got that out-of-state angler blog, so I can check that. We're working on harvest at certain waters. A lot of you guys were at the Fly Fishing Expo, so appreciate your efforts there. So yeah, you can go ahead and check that out and see how we're doing, keeping up with that. I think that's it for that first page. And then meeting dates and notes are up. And, well, I guess the notes aren't right, but I will put the notes. The notes will be here after the June meeting when we talk about it. But so the agendas are all up, but of course not all up, and then they aren't. I thought I was going to, but then I think I decided it's too draft right now. So as we start putting stuff together for June, I'll get that put together and get that posted. Same thing with November. And then I have the 2025 meeting dates just for save the date purposes. Of course, that March date could change just because that is joint with Habitat Council. So we kind of have to work with them to get that scheduled. Yes.
We can't hear the comments, please.
Oh, yeah, look at that. Thank you. I do not know. I don't know why I did that. So that's the second page. This is something that I hope to be working on here in the next couple of months. I think Randy did a presentation for you guys in June of last year, and maybe he does it every June, and it's kind of for all of the new people who are just starting, kind of what Blue Ribbon is all about. I hope to take what he did and just convert that into something that I can post here. So like Neil just started, and I felt bad, his first meeting, I felt like I feel like it's overwhelmed him. So this is something that people can go in when they're new and they can watch that and get a feel for what Blue Ribbon does throughout the year, what it's all about, that sort of thing. So you guys may or may not want to check that out. And then this is as of February 2024. These are the contacts. So thanks, Rich, for sending your picture in. When you guys get some pictures, maybe tonight while you're thinking about it, send me some pictures so I can put it on the website so we can all have, we can see everybody. So it has your name, your rep, position, and then your email address. And then apparently you always have to have a fish. I debated whether or not, but it just seemed right. No, you don't always have to. Drew has a pronghorn there, so that was like... And thanks to Josue for sending one in. So yeah, this is for Calvin, and Josue, you already sent one in. So Calvin, you're the only one here. I'll pick on you. Get me your picture. He's not going to. You'll never know what Calvin looks like. Okay, so there was a comment about how do we find the division regions. So I just put this note in here. So visit the fish planner. And then it'll ask, do you want to redirect? And you say yes. And then it'll just take you to the statewide page. So in this, add a map layer. You can add multiple map layers, right? So management areas, walk-in access areas, but you can also add DWR regions. and it'll put your regions up, and it's kind of I don't know, it's not super hard to see, but it's kind of hard to see, but you can change the map type. That's not going to make it show it better. Whoops. Let's do that one. Yeah, so you can change the map type to that gray, and you can see the backgrounds highlighted better. And then you can also, just if you go here, you're in the southern region. If you go here, you're in the central region. So there's the northeastern region. So if you wanted to spend some time in there, you could. And then there was a question about kind of hierarchical structure for the division. I know that I don't have any idea how like our partners, like the BLM and the forest, there's just like a million of them in those agencies, and I don't know how it's structured. So I definitely understand that comment. So I put this in. So regional supervisors in the regions, they'll supervise managers, and one of those is the fisheries manager, and then all of the people that you work with are underneath, or either that fishery manager or underneath that fishery manager. So at the same level, you have a native aquatics project leader, an assistant manager, and typically a special project leader, and then they'll each have biologists under them. So that's kind of that structure. And I tried to keep it consistent with these titles to be consistent with the positions up above for each individual. And then within the Salt Lake office, the director's office supervises assistant directors or deputy directors. Assistant directors are assigned to different regions and or different chiefs. So, we have within aquatics, we have it's Mike Canning who supervises Drew. And then we have another assistant director, Ashley Green, supervises the northeastern region and probably a couple of other regions. That's kind of how it's set up. And then under chiefs, you have assistant chiefs like Craig Walker, Craig Scougard, Wade, and then coordinators like myself. So all of that is now in there. Like I said, every time I update it, if I need to send something out, now it's just going to definitely bookmark that page, because now it's just going to be a quick email. This is up. Check it out. So hopefully this makes life easier. I know when I sent out there was like a bajillion emails, so I apologize for that. It's just, you want to make sure everyone has all the information, and you just try your best not to confuse everyone. All right, let me close out a bunch of these, because I think that might have covered, that's the Google site with everything that we wanted to talk about, plus the water body scoring. And we already went through the budget updates. Was there any questions on any of that? Okay. Oops, it's not on the agenda, but it was just a follow-up item I wanted to talk about. If I could just go over that real quick. Because there was some discussion about illegal introductions and what can Blue Ribbon Council do, because it's definitely an issue, and it's not just strawberry, right? It's statewide. So is there anything that anglers can do to help us out? And something that was discussed at the meeting that Alan referred to on Monday was maybe just put it on your schedules to attend, and you guys are, kind of an offshoot of the division, so it would be coming at it from a different angle, but, you could also just be at the wildlife board meeting, and I don't think it's wrong to just let them know that you're concerned and that something needs to happen, right? Like, and I guess we could talk about what that request is, if it's a strategic sort of plan of attack statewide. Hey, Nick. Hey, Oakley. Or maybe, but we've got a little bit of time, because the wildlife board meeting is not until September. What date is it? It's September 19th. So that is, I believe it's definitely a weekday. So I know not everyone would be able to attend. 9 a.m. The fisheries board meetings tend to last till about noon. So it's just that morning. But that's kind of, I think, the way that it needs to start, right? Is just going to the board, letting them know that there's a problem and that everyone's pretty concerned and we feel like something needs to be done. And I think the thought is that they would probably direct aquatics biologists to start working on it and really get our crap together and think about this more strategically, and not just deal with things one at a time as they happen. But it might also help getting, just getting more resources put towards it, that sort of thing. So that was the kind of the discussion, like maybe, we could get anglers attending the board meeting and even the regional RAC meetings. So depending on where you're located, you would go to a different location for a RAC meeting, but it doesn't hurt to also attend those as well. And that schedule, I don't have all of the RAC meetings, but they start, I want to say August 27th, I think is the Central Region. That's the first one. They're evening meetings, and they basically run that week and the next week for all 5 regions, and that schedule is on the division website. So it's kind of pushing through the avenues that we have available to us and just see where it goes from there. Does that make sense? Okay. So, Nick and Oakley are back. How'd it go upstairs? Well. Good. All right. Do you want to, we talked a little bit about your proposal, but if you want to come up to the microphone and just let folks know all the amazing stuff you do.
Or do you want me up at the podium?
Yeah, I think so. I think that would be best. Then everyone can see you. And I'll go ahead and share your proposal. Just tell me where to go.
I don't know what to, probably just
Finance? Okay, sure.
It's not like there's anything to see.
Sure.
So yeah, so basically this is money to help fund a biologist position.
Please turn that mic on, please. Thank you.
Oh, is that better?
Yes, thank you.
Right. So basically where this comes from is when Blue Ribbon Council was originally created, the people kind of spearheading the creation of it had the idea that they wanted to provide a funding source for doing projects like you've been hearing about, all these different, whether it's improving infrastructure, stream restoration, whatever it is. And so they were talking to different biologists, and they talked to the manager in the southern region, which was Dale Hepworth at the time, and asked and told him, we're going to create this Blue Ribbon Council. We'll have money for you to do projects. And his comment was that that's great, but he didn't have the personnel to implement those kind of projects. So they decided to create a new Blue Ribbon fisheries biologist position in the southern region. So that's where this came from. And so that funded a new biologist, which was Stan Beckstrom. He had that position for a long time, and then I took over for him when he moved up about 10 years ago, and I've been in it since. So that's basically what this project is to fund that new position that was created when Blue Ribbon was created. So, yeah. Any questions about it? It basically allows us to do projects like we do with stream restoration, improving the marinas and boat ramps at Fish Lake and all those sorts of things. Yeah, Rich.
So I have 2 questions. Scroll down just a little bit. It looks like this year scroll up, I'm sorry. It's now a permanent employee position where in years past it said temporary. So is that a change?
No, and that I don't know why that would be different, because it's funding the same position. It's the same.
Then the second question I have, do all the regions have a Blue Ribbon fisheries biologist?
No, it's just us right now, I believe. I think for a while the Central Region may have had one, and then that position didn't go away. They just found some other funding for it. But I think the original was us in Central Region, Southern and Central.
Thank you.
Okay, is there anybody else?
Anybody else got questions for Nick? Thanks.
Yeah, thank you, Nick. Okay, the only other thing, we've got an opening in the Central Region. So we've got actually 2 nominations, and Tyler, who's presenting upstairs, was going to talk about one, and then I was going to talk about the other. So I'll just go ahead and start. I think I don't know most of you, but some of you probably know, well, I know some of you know Bill Quap, I think is how you say his last name. So, okay, everyone's shaking their head yes. I might tap you if Tyler doesn't get back in time. He's the first one that we got. And then I got an email from a Dean Krieger. I don't know if anyone knows him, but he was just very interested in volunteering and helping out, and really just wants to kind of put his money where his mouth is in terms of his time and effort, and just really help out. So I'm just going to read. I just asked him to send me the fishing biography or fishing resume that he would have to submit anyway to the public board, through the public board process, right? Where the governor approves. So he says, to say I love fishing is an understatement. My father and grandfather were both great fishermen. They believed in conservation and management. Because of this example, I have a knowledge and respect for our natural resources. My son Riley has a great respect for fishing and hunting because of the examples of his grandfather and great-grandfather. I have fished the waters of Utah for 17 years. Last year was a record year of fishing for me due to the fact that I gained a new fishing partner. We fish the reservoir of Central Utah on a regular basis. We teach each other and share in each other's successes. Fishing is a sport that needs to be shared. There's some good fishing in this state. Careful management and conservation result in the joy of good fishermen having their pole bend or fill a puller jiggle at the end of the line. I have an ethical duty to follow the example of so many great sportsmen to help maintain our land, water, and wildlife resources. The conservation and management of our fisheries is a team effort that includes fishermen and women, fish and game departments, conservation officers, fish hatcheries, water departments, landowners, volunteer groups, etc. My decades of fishing experience extend from Mexico into BC. I have been a member of Trout Unlimited for several decades. My past membership and decades of leadership in Boy Scouting and experience with serving on the Home Builders Association Board of Directors in Utah and Idaho have given me experience with leadership and parliamentary procedure. My goal is to become a good member of the Blue Ribbon Fisheries Advisory Committee, faced with the difficult decisions that this committee is required to solve. I believe there are no simple solutions, but only intelligent choices. With all regard and confidence, Dean Krieger. And then he also had someone, someone that he knows, just send an email, just a personal reference, I guess. So anyway, he seems like a really good guy, avid fisherman. I don't have any more information than that, though. I don't really know him, but first impressions, it definitely seemed like he would be a good fit for the council. And I explained the, kind of the responsibilities and, just the requirements, I guess, like what we do, how many times we meet, the sort of procedures, I guess, that we go through. So, and I did that with Bill as well, and he was very much on board with, that level of service. So I don't have any, between the two of them, I don't have any concerns with could one make it or not. And since Tyler isn't back, do any of you want to talk about Bill? Anything you want to say in terms of your interactions? Sorry to put you on the spot, but I don't know anyone who shook their head yes. And it looked like it was all four of you shaking. Quap, I think.
Few of us know Bill Quap. He's pretty active in Trout Unlimited. A few years ago, he was the president of High Country Fly Fishers in Park City. Last year, he presented a couple of projects that he wanted to get approved, the ladders for walk-in access.
Was that for those stiles that were eventually installed? Okay, cool.
Yeah,
Well, he's got one tank.
They've got a few tanks. He also presented I think a temperature stream monitoring.
Yeah.
Larry could probably address that in a little more detail.
Well, Dave, I forget Dave's last name from High Countries, actually, Whiteman, actually gone ahead with that project through and they enlisted students to help. It wasn't, Bill ran the project through Blue Ribbon, but it's really Dave and High Country's project. So they're doing temperature monitoring on the Middle Provo with these devices in the water, and then the kids go by, collect the data. It's quite interesting, actually. And then Bill also presented a Trout in the Classroom, which TU is a sponsor of. I think the TU has 65 tanks around the state, one down in southern Utah now.
Oh, do they?
Yeah, Dave, I'll introduce you to Dave Tall down in, when we do the seminar down there. Great guy to know. He's kind of heading that up. High Country has 6 of those tanks. Bill's got 1. My wife's got another. Tom White from our club manages that program, and then Dave Lita runs the program for TU. So through the volunteers, Bill's a good guy. He's got his opinions, and I'll leave it at that. I work with Bill a lot, and it's always interesting.
Okay, thanks. Sorry again for putting y'all on the spot. I'm trying to see if Tyler is about to come down. He might actually be in the act of presenting right now. So we've got those two to decide between. Do we want to just take a vote, or should we wait for Tyler, who he was just going to talk about Bill for just a couple of minutes, but you guys did a pretty good job, I think. So.
What's Dean's last name?
Dean Krieger, Kreger.
So Dean came into Fish Tech and talked to me about it, and I told him to contact you with his qualifications. And
oh, cool.
I've seen him in the store as a customer, but I haven't talked to him a lot.
Yeah.
Other than that. What's that? I mean, he seemed very enthusiastic, and he sounded like he knew what he was talking about. He very interested in getting involved. And I've had a few people, I tell them, I just give them your address, and I said, contact Trina and see what's available.
Yeah, it was good timing for Central Region. So it's cool to have choices. I wasn't expecting that. So go ahead, Rich.
And I was wondering when my expiration date is coming up, but more specifically, when is it the end of June that we go through a cycle every year? And is anybody else, are there going to be some other possible openings?
There is an opening coming up. Dave, don't be doing a dance. You'll miss us. I know it. Yeah, so I'm pulling up the, okay, so this is what I work off of. I only put Bill up here because he was the one that called me first. I didn't think I'd have a choice, right? So I've got Dean here too, but it's, it's basically Bill and Dean are, that's who we're voting on. That was not just because I thought maybe he would get voted for sure. Dean just contacted me out of the blue after I'd already thought that Bill would be our only person. So if you look up here, you get original appointment date and then current appointment date, because it's a 3-year cycle or 3-year service. So Dave was originally appointed in 2018. First term expired in 2021. So that means his June meeting will be his last meeting. He's done this year. So we do need to find a replacement for him. And then everybody else who expires in 2024, and it looks to me like Randy, what he was doing, he wasn't, I can blow that up. He wasn't doing that June 30th deadline. So if they started on a specific date, it would be 3 years from that date is what he was doing, just to make sure that, because some people come in mid-year, and so then you don't get a full 3 years with them. So I think that's why he was probably doing that. So if you go back over here to expiration date, there are a few folks whose first term expires in 2024. So I'm awful hopeful that those of you whose first term is expiring this year would love to just stick around and serve your second term. So we can talk about that later. But if you definitely know you don't want to, let me know sooner rather than later. Go ahead.
Okay, that was exactly what I was asking. However, what do the bylaws of the council say in terms of expiration date?
I don't know that it's a bylaw, but those, the guidebook does say June 30th as the end date. So we could be sticklers about that, and maybe we should be, but it is kind of nice to get a full 3 years, since that's what they're allowed. But if, I guess if the council thinks we need to be sticklers, we can do that. And then the other, in my mind, from my perspective, it's a problem if you've got multiple people ending on June 30th that year. That could be a conundrum. Your next meeting, you might, there is quite a while between the June and November meeting, but between that time, you're scrambling to find multiple people and you're voting on multiple people in November. There's no way that they're going to get in place until January at the earliest, and it could be this meeting, just because of the way things have to happen, so.
The other issue is, the governor's office was really slow on getting appointments out, so you may have started in June and got your appointment in November, so the dates are a little goofy. So that's why Randy explained to me we haven't been sticklers about that June date.
I got
Does that help? Any other questions about the membership roster? I'm good. Okay, great. Yeah, thanks. Okay, do you wanna vote, Bill, Dean? Okay, yeah, let's, do we need to make a motion? No. Can someone make a motion to, oh, no, wait, we have a motion to approve, right? We can just take a vote and then we motion to approve? I need to. Yeah, they couldn't make it today, so. Mm-hmm.
I don't know about Dean. I assume we need the position filled.
Yes, it'd be great to have the position filled. And so the process is vote today, then have them, whoever is voted in, submits their resume to the governor's office, and then the governor's office approval. And then they would start for the next meeting in June. Go ahead, Rich.
Why don't we ask, since nobody has specifically, well, Mickey says he's met him at the shop, but since nobody really knows him personally, why don't we have him come in, because there may be a future vacancy, just have him come in and come to a couple of meetings, introduce himself, and kind of go through a informal interview before we vote on him.
Okay, so if I'm hearing you correctly, then your motion would be to vote for Bill, or to vote Bill into the position currently, and then ask Dean to apply for a different position that might be upcoming in the future.
Join us just so he gets a feel for what we're about.
Sure, yeah, we can invite him to the June meeting. So, but that's a motion, right? So let's see. Okay, then let's do the all in favor, and including online, Ryan and Rebecca, give me a thumbs up if you are okay with voting Bill into the Central Region Rep, and then asking Dean to come in and meet everyone on the council and get a feel for how the council operates. Okay, so vote. I saw a thumbs up from Ryan.
I have no idea how to give a thumbs up over this. You got a thumbs up from me.
So go to your smiley face across the bottom and then hit the thumbs up. Or you could just say, I vote yes, or I approve, or I vote no. Ah, there you go.
Thank you.
Ah, good job. Okay, thanks, Dave. Okay, so I will let both of those two know what was decided, and is there any other business we need to talk about?
We're gonna have to replace Dave.
Oh, we are going to have to replace Dave, and he is the Southern Region representative. So that's going to be, it's always hard to get someone who is interested in traveling that far. So,
I may know a guy, Big Fall down there.
okay. Yeah, great.
You see him at the people deals all the time,
Okay,
things like that.
great. I did, Dave had someone in mind used to work with at the hatchery, Pat, but I'm having a brain fart on his last name. So yeah, if we, just talk to everybody because you never know who's going to actually have the time. So that would be great. Oh, perfect. And then this is something that I've struggled with having to say, and I guess I just need to say it because I'm the coordinator now over the council. I was asked to remind everyone that you're an advisory council. We value your opinion 100%. And the reason that we bring you all together and ask you to rank these projects is because we want your feedback. We want to hear what you guys want to see on the ground. But there's always a but. So if as it moves up the chain of command, if there is a project that they see as being necessary, kind of like, Nick's position, right? Like, Nick's position needs to get funded. So something like that, if for whatever reason you guys said this isn't a priority, that's the kind of thing where the division would step in and say, no, we really need to fund that. And I'm not saying that you guys would see it that way, like see it that Nick's position isn't important, but just as an example, right? So I just wanted to let you guys know we're going to rank these projects, and then I will work with Habitat Council and we'll try and get as much of these projects funded as possible, just working together. And then I will let you guys know what the final list is. It may even be out of my hands because I'm just a coordinator, as you saw, kind of low on the Salt Lake totem pole. But yeah, there may end up be some shuffling, but I think it would be minimal. But I just wanted to give you guys a heads up. Those of you who've been on the council for a while, you've probably seen that. But it could happen. Just wanted to give you a heads up. And I think that's it for the meeting, right? Okay. Thank you all.